In the last video, we took a look at internal CSS, and before that, we took a really good look at inline CSS. And in this video, we're going to take a look at external CSS. First off, I really don't like working with this code that we have over here. As you can see, there is a lot of code, and it kind of turned to be a little bit messy. So I'm going to simply go ahead and create a new project. So I could click on File. I'm going to click on New Project or New Open Folder. Or sorry, not Open File, Open Folder. So over here, Control-Shift-O, and I'm gonna go ahead and locate it on my desktop, and I'm gonna go ahead and call this CSS, because I'm gonna be doing a lot of CSS in here, and that's it. So I'm gonna click on Select Folder, and it now has opened. I'm gonna close my previous Atom folder. Great. I will now drag this over here, and I can simply just bring this to the bottom like that, and now we are ready to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually create a new file within this CSS folder by right-clicking on it and clicking on New File, and I'm gonna create an index.html, and I'm also gonna create something called style.css. And this is really important. Make sure you name it the same way, style.css, so you don't run into any issues down the line. Great. So I'm going to also go ahead and copy the full path for the index.html. So over here, copy full path. And I could go ahead and paste it in my link over there. And as you can see over here, there is nothing in my website. That's amazing. So I'm going to go ahead and type HTML, and I'm going to press enter. And now I have my boilerplate code over here, and I could go ahead and start typing the heading name. So the header name over here could be homepage, and I could go ahead and now add an H1, and this H1 is gonna say welcome to my website. So I could do welcome to my website, and below this I could go ahead and add, let's say, a paragraph with something called Lorem text, which I'll talk about in a second, like this. And I could add a Lorem text like this by typing in Lorem. And if you are wondering what Lorem is just basically a spam text in a different language that I don't know of. But if I type in Lorem and I press tab or enter, it's going to go ahead and paste a lot of text. And this is pretty good when you're prototyping, and this is the fastest way of doing something. So I'm going to go ahead and reload this page. And as you can see, I have welcome to my site or website, and I'll have this big paragraph down here. So I'm going to go ahead and add some another paragraph down here, and I'm also going to add Lorem text. So Lorem, and between these two paragraphs, I'm going to add a header tag, HR tag, a horizontal rule tag, and that's it. So if I reload this page, you'll see that I have my first paragraph, my second paragraph, and I have my title, and we are ready to go. So first off, I'm going to add some inline CSS just for, let's say, my first paragraph. I could type in style is equal to, let's say, color, we'll say orange, like that. And I could go ahead and reload my page, and we have orange text now. Great. That means everything is working, so we could go ahead and move on to internal CSS, and then finally external CSS. So what we're going to do is actually delete these tags at the top, or these attributes at the top, and we're going to add internal CSS within the head tags. So I could type in style over here, press enter, delete the media in screen over here. So now I could go ahead and type in my internal CSS. I'm just going to say body. We want to change the body color, let's say, to light blue, or sorry, background color, and we're going to give it a light blue color. So we're going to go over here, let's get this light blue hex code from last time, and we're going to paste it. And if we reload the page, we now have this light blue color in the back. Great. So how do we actually start adding CSS code in a different file and link it to our main file? Well, that's a good question, and we're going to get into that right now. So we have this style.css over here, and if I go ahead and, for example, type in body, let's say color, what we'll do, or background color, we could do, let's say, black. You will notice that nothing changes on my website, and some of you may say this is because that we have the internal CSS and inline CSS, and to prove you wrong, I will go ahead and simply just delete these tags over here and delete the inline CSS over here. So if I reload the page, everything should be gone, and I am correct. As you can see, even though I did add body, background color is black, nothing really changed in my website. Well, to link my style.css and actually make my website follow all the CSS code within here, I have to link it. So how do I link my styles.css to index.html? Well, I have to go in between the head tags, which is at the top over here. So this is often done below the title, and I could go ahead and write linking local CSS file as my comment, so I know what I'm doing. And local just means on my machine, so I'm not getting any library that's online. Instead, I'm just working on everything that's on my PC. And what I can do from here is simply type in link and press an enter. So when you press enter by default, you'll see a lot of text comes up, and all this is extremely important. So rel means what is the relationship, and the relationship is a style sheet. So we're going to be linking a style sheet. So if I go ahead and add a space here, it kind of makes sense, style sheet, but I usually have to actually delete the space just to make sure everything works. And in the href, this means hyperreference. We're going to go ahead and hyperreference or reference our style sheet over here. So I could go ahead and type in style.css like that. And if I go ahead and actually reload the page, everything should be black, and I am correct. Great. So this over here is basically how we link our style sheet to our HTML page. So link just means link, link whatever's in here to this current page. Rel means relationship. So the relationship that we're trying to link is a style sheet. And finally, where is the style sheet located? It's located at no location. It just has a specific style sheet name. Great. Let's say I went ahead and actually created a folder, let's say new folder, and I called it CSS, and I dragged my style.css in here, and I reloaded the page. Nothing would really show up. Again, that's because I have to now specify where it is, so I have to type in CSS, like this, /style.css. So if I reload it, everything is black, and that's what we wanted. Great. Now we will go ahead and actually start coding in our external CSS file. So I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to go ahead and get that light shade of blue again. And I'm going to change the background color to that. So if I reload it, yes, we got this beautiful blue color. Now we're going to go ahead and design our website to make it look beautiful. So in our body, I could go ahead and write text align. So we want to align all the text into the center. So if I reload the page, you'll notice everything in here is now centered, and it already looks much better. I could go ahead and also increase the font size. Let's say my header tag. So I think that's an H1. I could type in H1, and for my H1, I'm gonna go ahead and type in font size, and we could do 20 pixels. And if I go ahead and reload the page, oh, it became a lot smaller. Well, that's not good. So I could go ahead and simply increase this and reload the page, and now we'll have this beautiful big welcome to my website H1. I also want to change the size of my paragraphs, so I could add these curly braces, and in here I could go ahead and specify font size, and we could write, for example, 40 pixels. So this is fairly large, and if I reload the page, yes, I finally have this big text over here which we can easily read. So again, this is the basics of adding external CSS. But now we're going to take a look at two important concepts that we didn't take a look at in the last video. First off, how do I change the color of background using RGB? If you haven't heard of RGB, RGB just stands for red, green, and blue. So I'll go ahead and write that over here as a comment. RGB is equal to red, green, and blue. And how do we actually define an RGB color? Well, it's simple. First, we type in RGB, then we add brackets. And in this brackets, all we have to define is red, green, and blue. Note that the maximum value for each of these colors is 255. So it's kind of like deciding how much of each color we're going to put in, where 255 is the max limit. So, for example, we could type in 0, 0, and 0. And if we reload this page, you'll notice everything is black because we have no colors whatsoever. We could do 255, 255, and 255. and we'll see that we have a beautiful white background again. And let's say I want to set my green to 0. Well, what happens when you mix red and blue? You get this purplish color or pinkish purplish color, and that's our background over here. So that's how we could go ahead and actually use RGB. So if we go back to our color mixer over here, let's say we want to get this beautiful blue color, we could go ahead and copy these values down here of R, G, and B. And we could go back to our website. We could go ahead and paste these values in here, and we could reload it, and now we have this blue background over here. In 90% of the scenarios, you really don't want to use RGB because hex colors is just more frequently used throughout the CSS community. But it is good to know, just because in some very rare scenarios, you might need to use RGB. And it's also a good thing to know just in general. Now let's take a quick look at RGBA. Well, we've never really thought about what A stands for, and it really doesn't have a meaning. Well, A kind of stands for opacity. So, is the color opaque? Is it see-through? What is it? So this over here basically means what's the opacity, and we have to define it with another comma. So this can range from 0 all the way up to 1. So I could do 0.3 to say, yes, its transparency is a lot. So if I reload this page, as you can see, it is a lot more see-through. That's why we see a lot more white, and it's a very, very light blue color. And that's how we do this. Next, let's take a look at how we could go ahead and make the second paragraph small while not touching the external CSS code. So as we talked about last time, we can override the external CSS code via inline code and internal CSS code. So let's go to our index.html, and we can scroll down to our first paragraph tag over here, and I could type in style is equal to, and then we could go ahead and do font size. So to change the font size, we could change it to 20 pixels. Oops, 20 pixels like that. And if I reload this page, it has been overridden, and this means that the font size of this over here, this text over here, is about 20 pixels. Well, we can also go ahead and actually change it again. So if I just go ahead and delete that, I could add internal CSS code. So I could type in style, and I could delete media screen because we do not need this. And in here, I could go ahead and type in P, and I could type in, oh, oops, sorry, I just typed in paragraph tag. We could type in P, and what we can do from here is simply write font size is equal to, let's say, 20 pixels like that. And if I reload the page, everything has been overridden. But we really didn't want this, so probably the best solution for this issue would have been simply just using inline CSS code. But this is just showing you, yes, internal CSS code is more prioritized than external CSS code. So let's go ahead and actually add one line of CSS code over here. Let's just say in the paragraph tag, and I'm going to go ahead and actually paste this, and I'm going to change this to 3 pixels or 4 pixels, and if I reload the page, you'll see everything's extremely small. It's really, really, really hard to see. I will have to zoom all the way in, and it's still extremely hard to see. But yeah, we have now shown how to override external CSS code, internal CSS code, but we really can't override inline CSS code. In this lesson, we covered all the important things that we're going to know about how to make a CSS document, how to link it to our HTML page, how we can override inline CSS code, internal CSS code, and finally external CSS code.